So what do you think Emergency's legacy is?
Well, I think it's going to be known as an entity that was very instrumental in changing emergency medicine as we know it forever. When you take life-saving services out of the hospital and into the field, the number of lives that are saved are incalculable. And, you know, the stars just lined up with this show. It just lined up perfectly for a purpose, for a greater purpose than any other show. Everybody says, you know, aren't you tired of being recognized for doing emergency? No, you know, I could be remembered for a lot of other things, for driving a car that has a name called the General Lee, for God's sake. Not that there's anything wrong with that show. I'm just saying I could be remembered for that, you know. But instead, I'm remembered for something that changed emergency medicine forever, for actually saved lives. How lucky can any one person be to be known for something like that? Not really ever having to really put in that much blood, sweat, and tears into it, just by being in the right place at the right time and being exposed to those kinds of people. I think that's what the legacy is going to be.
So what did you do after the show ended?
Took a lot of time off. Well, no, actually, I didn't. Right after the show ended, Bob Senator, right after the show ended, which show did I do? Oh, yeah, I did Operation Petticoat. You know, America had already said they didn't want to watch the damn thing. So getting rid of the entire cast wasn't really going to, and so they got rid of the entire cast, put in a whole other cast, and I mean, it was a pink submarine running around World War II. Makes a good movie, but not on an everyday basis. So writers were very good. They were very funny. I would laugh out loud at the scripts, but I just didn't have that same feeling. So, and then went right from there into another show, same producers, doing Detective School One Flight Up, which was actually, it was my first experience with a 3-camera show and an audience and everything. That took some adjusting. I never really felt on top of my game in that one, and it's one of the few times where I was like, "Oh, thank you for getting rid of that show." But then I also did The Seekers with Bob Senator. He was the executive producer. Got to play probably the best role I've ever had to play because he had a true beginning, a middle, and an end. I loved that show, and I loved doing it, and I loved everybody that I worked with.
When you were doing Operation Petticoat and Detective School, were you making a conscious effort to move into comedy? Was that something you wanted to do?
No. Like I said, I never really made any conscious decisions to do anything. I was just like, I was the reactor. I just would react. Oh, yeah, you want me to do that? Yeah, let me give it a shot. We never had summit meetings with my agent saying, this is what we should do with your career. Never did that. I was just, the next thing that was offered, I'd go, yeah, okay. There's a couple things that I said, I don't think I can do that. But I rarely turned down anything. I should have, but I didn't.
You made an appearance on Battlestar Galactica in 1979, and among your co-stars were Ray Bolger and Bobby Van. What was your memory of that experience?
I remember Ray was getting along in years, and he was pretty grumpy, but grumpy in just the neatest way. It's like I just loved being around him, listen to him grump and gripe, and it was hard for him to do, to keep those kind of hours and everything. But I just thought, oh my God, Ray Bolger, he's the Scarecrow, he's the Scarecrow. I thought, the Scarecrow is grumpy. that's okay, you know. And Bobby Van was just, he was the exact opposite, you know. So they made a perfect team. But also, Mark Harmon's sister was in that, right? So, so loved working with her. But let's see who else was in that. Lorette Spang. I knew Lorette. You know, I didn't work with the guys very much. Did a couple of scenes with them, but it was basically them. And it was a good time. It was they wanted to do a spinoff of. They wanted to have it be me and Kelly, and then the show got canceled. So how can you do a spinoff of a canceled show? You can't. So it didn't happen.
In 1980, you were on an episode of Charlie's Angels.
Mm.
What's your memory of that experience?
Oh, that whole time of my life, it was pretty dismal. I just didn't like anything I was doing. I really wanted out of the business at that time. I was just doing it for the money at that point. Just being honest here.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do Charlie's Angels and Love Boat, and it's like these were shows I didn't watch. They have their legacy, and I'm not being, above them. I'm just saying I wasn't happy. I didn't want to do this. Everybody treated me very well. That's not the point. I remember this one time, I was being chased by a rock monster on, I don't know what show it was. Fantasy Island, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, this silicon rock monster came out of the cave, and I'm running, and I'm going, oh my God, where's my career going? I'm being chased by a rock monster. And I remember being up on the top, and I remember the director, I can't think of his name right now. He was so perceptive. I couldn't get this line right. And it was not that big of a line, but I was really holding the company up. I mean, I couldn't get it right. I couldn't, or I'd forget it, or I'd say it wrong, or whatever. And it was just cut after cut after cut. He came over, and he had worked one of the emergency shows, and he put while they were, getting, relighting or whatever, put his hand around my back, and he said, "You really don't want to be here, do you?" I said, "I really don't." And he goes, "Randy, don't do them. Just say no. You don't have to say yes to everything." He said, "We'll get out of this." He said, "But if you don't want to be here, don't do it." And it was like this huge release. Said the line, "We're done." And that was one of the last ones I did. It's like, now I want to read them. And if I don't like them, I don't want to do them.
So when you did a show like The Fall Guy in, the mid-'80s, late '80s, was that something that you thought, okay, these scripts
there was only one Fall Guy that I wanted to do, and I fought for that role, and that was, I think his name was Jerry whatever. It was called Lucky Guy, the Lucky Guy or something Lucky. That I wanted to do. Lucky Steph. That I wanted to do. I loved that one. But the other two, oh my God, those were decisions that I've always regretted. Why am I doing this?
You did Diagnosis Murder in '97, and you were reunited with Robert Fuller. What's your memory of that experience?
It was just different. Everybody thought, it was different because Bob Fuller now is not Dr. Brackett. He's this sleazy mayor, and they've got the squad. And the reason why they had 51 on there was that Kristen Nyby, the third or the second or whatever, used to be one of our directors. So he always kept this magnetized 51 at home. So he brought it in. He was one of their resident directors on the show. So he gets this squad, this old brush squad, and he just pops 51 on it. And he hired Kevin's daughter to play and everybody said, "What was that like? What was that like?" It was an emergency, and but half the crew was my emergency crew, but it was still different. It was not emergency. You can't recapture it. You just can't. So it was great. to see Bob again. Great to see Jen, who is Kevin's daughter, who grew up on the show. But it was like trying to go home again. It was a little more weird than it was anything.
In the late 80s and 1987, you started doing a lot of soap opera work.
Yeah.
So
I needed to get out of L.A. And so I went to New York, and I said, I have to get out of L.A. I can't be doing these stupid roles anymore. And so they said, well, what about a soap opera? And I went, oh, God, a soap opera, are you kidding? And I was just like everybody else, oh, a soap opera. Well, and they said, and my agent said, look at it this way. You want to go back to New York and work in the theater again, right? Yeah. How are you going to afford to do that? You know theater doesn't pay, right? So where are you going to live? You're going to be miserable. You're going to use all the money that you've saved up and everything just to do this. You're going to be doing a soap opera. They're going to pay you this amount of money, and you can do theater at night. Well, that's all great. It doesn't really work out like that. But I went, yeah. And he said, Ann, look at this role. This is really a good role. And I thought, yeah. Turned out, I worked off and on for almost 9 years on that show. I've never had more fun in my life. I would swing my feet out of bed in the morning and I'd go, oh my God, and they're paying me. I had a blast. So when people say, oh, soap operas, well, maybe for some people, but oh my God, they let me ad-lib. I've never had more fun going to a set. Emergency was great, but it was work, it was hard physical work. This was a half-hour show that nobody saw. I thought, oh God, I'm getting paid and I'm hiding too. And it's just like I loved the people. And to this day, I got married, 12 years ago. Except for Kevin, everybody else was from the soap because I had bonded with the crew. One of my best friends is Brendan Higgins, who is the stage manager of the show. Just watched the football game with him last night. And everybody that was, and Kevin, of course, was my best man, but everybody else that was there was all from that show. This little show called Loving, the little show that nobody watched in America, but everybody watched in Italy. Go figure. The #1 show in Italy. Beat out 60 Minutes. It's like, what? Well, they renamed it. They called it Quando si ama, which means a time for love. And it's like, yeah, of course. They like this turgid, That's okay. I felt like Madonna when I went over to Italy. Alex. It's like, oh my God. It's just like Emergency, but only it's this little show that nobody saw.
So talk about Alex. Describe the character.
Well, he started out as Clay Alden, and then they said, we want a villain with a, how did they put it? And then they said, no, we're going to make you've been pretending you're Clay. You're really Alex. And I said, and for a year, I got away with this with the guy's wife? Come on. Yeah, it's soaps. And I said, all right. So then I became Alex. Now, Alex, then they said, we want a hero with an edge. But they wanted a villain with a heart. That's what it was. I was playing a villain with a heart. And they said, no, we like you as a hero with an edge. I said, all right, Jesus, this is all semantics to me. I'm going to play it how I play it anyway. And so I was a cop. I was an FBI guy. I was in the CIA. I was something else. All in this. I thought, is there anything this guy can't do? Maybe he's a night watchman for Walmart. But I just loved it, and I loved the people I was working with. At that time I was divorced, so I'm single. I'm around all these beautiful women. I'm getting paid, and I'm in New York, and I can do theater.
That's great.
It was a dream.
So how do you roll with kind of the crazier storylines of a soap opera when you're an actor?
Oh, I complain like a rusty wheel. I go, guys, please, this is so stupid. And they listen to me. They go, well, how would you do it? Well, do this, do that, And then they would have, they would have firefighters come on, and they all look like doofs, the stuff that they had them do. And I go, I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing this scene with, you want to do it that way? Fine. But don't make me be on camera with it. And they would show them what they would do. And I said, then the scene changes. And yeah, there were times when I remember a time, everybody remembers this too. I was so angry one day, and I know the producer's name, but I really like him. I really like him. I said, I went down, I read the script, and it was just awful. And I went down and I said, it was Joe Hardy. And so I went down and I said, can I talk with Joe Hardy? And he says, well, this door is open. I poked my head in the door and I said, Joe? And he goes, hi, Randy, come in. And I said, I got a question for you. Who wrote this crap? And I didn't use the word crap. And he goes, I wrote that crap. And I said, this is really good crap. And I said, but there's just a few tweaks. He goes, shut up and sit down. Now, what's your problem? And so we worked it out. But I went, oh, I dodged a bullet on that one. You just have to be careful what you say. And I'm still learning that as I go through life, that you just can't say what's on the top of your head.
And why did you leave Loving and go to General Hospital?
I didn't. I left Loving because you can only memorize dialogue for so long. And it's blah, 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 blah. It's all soap stars, blah, 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 blah. Bob and Sally and Phil and blah, blah. All these names, like, blah, blah. He went out. So I said, I'm going away. So, plus I was going through a divorce. And so I had to deal with the house and I had to deal with everything. And so then I started working again. I did like LA Law, stuff like that. And then finally they said, we'd like for you to do this small role. It started out to be a small role, and you'll be working with, and he said who. So it wasn't a contract or anything. Started doing the show. Now I know I'm going to get into trouble for saying this. I know it. I can't help it. It's the truth. I hated that show. Hated it. It was so cliquish. It was so cold. There was nothing funny going on. Everybody was afraid of their jobs. Everybody was like, this group was against this group, and I'd never seen anything like it. I come from a soap where, it was like kumbaya. Everybody's, drinking and eating turkey, and hey, we're having a good time. This show was totally different, and I didn't want to be part of it. It was so tense on stage all the time. Anyway, then I found out at one of the Emmys, the daytime Emmys, one of the head writers came up to me and while we're in the bathroom, and he says, well, he says, we got quite a storyline for you. Now my storyline was coming up, was ending, and I thought, hallelujah, as soon as my story, because I have no contract with these people. And I went, what do you mean? And he goes, this, and he sort of told me what it was. And first off, I thought, that's pretty presumptuous of you to think that, that I'm just here at your beck and call. Nobody's talked to me about anything, and plus I didn't like what he was saying what the storyline was. And I went, oh, wow, well, cool, this is the head writer. And that moment I clicked in, I went, I have to get off the show. So I called my agent, you have to get me off. I said, look, either you're going to do it the nice way or I'm going to do it and I'm not going to look good. And so then I started calling back to Loving and saying, hey, what do you think? Do you think you might, And so I engineered, then I knew that the ABC people really liked me, but they were afraid of the producer on General Hospital. I know I'm getting into trouble the more I tell this story. Anyway, so we finally figured it out where I would come back onto Loving. And so when the thing was offered to me, sitting in her office, and my blood was pumping through my neck because I was going, am I really going to do this? Because I was angry. Am I really going to do this? And so, because this person said to me once before, kind of really screwed me, said, "It's nothing personal, it's just business." And I hate that. And I thought, how can that person possibly do that? Anyway, so they are sitting in this chair and they swirl around. She's on the phone with somebody and she goes, meaning sit. So I sit down and so she hangs up the phone and she goes, "Well, we've got a storyline for you." And I thought, and I had all these mechanizations that I had done. I knew that I was covered. So blood was pounding from my jugular. And I said, "Storyline?" She goes, "Yes." She goes, "We want you to stay on for another couple of years." And I said, "Oh." And so she explained what the storyline was. And I went, "Wow." I said, "That really sounds great, but it's just not for me." And this look on her face, which is what she did not expect, went like this. I said, "It's okay. It's nothing personal. It's just business." And the wall came down. Boom. And I went, "Okay, now I have to get out of here." I left, and she stared holes. If her eyes were lasers, I'd be two people. And I was like, "Get in the car, go, get in the car, get in the car, get out of here, get out of here." And I got out of there, and I went to New York. Thank you, Lord.
And so you went back on Loving,
Yeah.
which became The City.
Yeah.
And then you also then went on to As the World Turns, right?
Yeah. Just again,
I know
I
there
never
are other
signed any
shows in
contracts. They just said,
between,
"Hey, will you
yeah.
come over?" And yeah.
Yeah. So talk first about the character that you played on As the World Turns.
Frankly, I don't even remember the character.
You were Hal Munson.
Right. That was pretty good. It was short-lived, but it was pretty good. I played the kid's father, and it turns out he really is, a killer or whatever he did. And there were some good scenes in there, some really good scenes in there.
And what about One Life to Live? What's your kind of favorite memory of One Life to Live?
I get them all mixed up.
One Life to Live, you were Kirk Harmon.
Oh, that was Kirk Harmon?
Yeah.
Oh, Hal Munson.
Hal Munson was the
Take
police
it back.
officer.
Okay, that was on what show? One Life to Live.
So As the World
Look,
Turns.
I don't watch soaps
No,
unless
I know.
I'm in them.
They're confusing.
I don't watch them.
Sorry, As the World Turns, you were Hal Munson.
Okay, Hal Munson, that's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
Hal Munson took some time off, and I took over for him. I'll never do something like that again, especially after he passed away. That was just so uncomfortable. This guy had created this role 19 years before, and he'd everybody knew him as that. They knew him as that character. They didn't even know his real name. They only knew him as the real character. And me coming in, and I'm like, "Oh, this is a no-win situation." And so I just said, "Look, I don't want to do this anymore." And they said, We understand. It's uncomfortable, and we're going to kill the character off." I was so glad.
And how do you do that? When you come into a kind of legendary role like that, do you try and make it your own, or do you just kind of stick with?
You make it your own. That's the only thing you can do. Because I had never really seen him before. Like I said, if I'm not in him, I don't see him. So I didn't know what he did. I just knew the dynamics of the dialogue, and his wife and his kids and whatever, and how everybody is responding to me. That's the only thing I can go by. I can't go and be him. Yeah. It was very uncomfortable. Now the other one, that was a good scene. It's very short-lived. Enjoyed it. Had a good time, but it was very short-lived. Very, very short.
You mentioned earlier kind of having to memorize the dialogue. Talk about doing production on a soap opera.
Well, it's totally different than film. Totally different. And it's even more different now. I don't think I could do a soap now, no matter what, because you get no rehearsal time. In my, back when I was doing Loving, we had the whole morning to rehearse. Then we'd go up and do blocking and everything. Now, you walk onto the set, You put your words down, and you act. And because there's just no money in it anymore, and they're trying to cut back all the costs. It is pretty brutal to be a soap actor now. It's very, very hard, you know. And unless you really love that medium, you're going to pay a price. You're going to pay a price, and you know, it's not like you're going to get rich, but you're working. You're a working actor, and that's very hard in this town to be a working actor. So when people look down on soap actors, you know, there are some actors that should have stayed a little bit longer in school, and you know, but there are some really good actors, and they work hard for their money, and it is a piece of entertainment that can't be ignored. You know, some stories are great. Some stories are like, what?
Do you think you'd ever do it again?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
In 2011, you were on 2 episodes of Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
So tell us about your character. Who did you play?
Well, I played an Indian, American Indian, that was out on a nearby reservation. And my character first comes on, rather innocuously enough, as a preacher to marry 2 of the main characters on the show. And so we get through that. Well, it turns out this preacher is also just as bad as the boys. He takes this Russian gangster guy, buries him navel deep in the sand, and pours ants all over him, and tortures him literally to death. And he gets a little angry when the lead character on Sons of Anarchy kills the guy, because he says, hey, he should have suffered 2 or 3 more days. You know, you just killed him. So he gets a little angry at that. But I liked that. I like that. Plus, you got to curse on the show. I said, oh, really, man? They actually wrote it out. I get to say this word? Really?
So now you have some Native American heritage, is that true?
Yeah, my father, yeah.
So was that something that where people were aware of throughout your career?
Yeah, I never hid it, but I did never want to just, you know, flag it. Hey, American Indian, nah.
So you never kind of went after those kind of roles?
No.
Yeah.
But if one was offered me, yeah, of course. I don't deny what I am. I just don't. You know, there's a lot of American Indian actors out there that don't get the opportunity that I do. I get to play. I played a Russian with a Russian accent. They're not going to get that opportunity. So for them to give me that role just doesn't seem fair to me, unless I'm the only person that could actually do that role, you know. But I've never found that role yet.
Did it ever bother you to see non-Native Americans playing Native American roles?
Yeah, it bothers me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's unfair.
Yeah. Let's talk about what are some of your current projects?
Well, I just finished doing a play at the Jeff Daniels Theater, the Purple Rose. What a great experience that was. That was one of those times when I said, I just don't think I can do this role. And he says, oh, well, I do. And, you know, the director was great. Right now, my big project that I really want to do very badly is I want to get me and Kevin on stage. And so we're now reading, and this will be the first time Kevin and I have worked together since the show ended 35 years ago. So 35 years ago. So it's taken me years to get him to agree to it. But I think we have. He just called this morning. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but he wants to do a particular play. I'm like, okay, yeah. But I have another play that I'd like for him to read and see what he thinks. And but the Purple Rose, Jeff Daniels Theater, Guy Sanville is the artistic director, and he said, yeah, if we can get it done, you know. I did it last year from August until December of last year. So, I think that Kevin and I might, for the first time, be on stage again.
That's
That'd be
great.
cool. That'd be really cool.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, it would.
What would your fans be surprised to know about you?
Well, I don't know. I on my Facebook page, I'm pretty open and upfront. I think most people, I never want to be a star. I don't like that. I thought I would really like that. But these guys who want to be it really pay a price. They've always got to be on the knife's edge. They've always got to look good. They've always got to, they're always thinking about their next move. How do they, it's like, whoa, man, I get a headache just thinking of stuff like that. I'm always trying to figure out, how can I take another trip to, say, Alaska, I'd really rather spend my time doing that than always having to be on top. I had a peak of the top with Emergency and went, no, I don't like that. And I mean, I still want to be recognized and people stop me and say, hey, really love you and everything. But being chased down the street, being paparazzi to death, it's like, I can't do that. And so when people say I'm taking time off, like Garth Brooks, what's his name? I went, what? In the middle of this career, he did the right thing. And people don't realize I don't want it. I just want to act. But I don't want that.
What do you like about acting?
It's so freeing because you can be another person, express yourself, and be forgiven because it's not your words, right? You can be forgiven. You can explore all those emotions. And what I really like about it, and that's why I'm writing more and more, is that it's like storytelling. When people are like this, you go, got him. I'm telling the story. And I get that from my dad. My dad would tell these damnedest stories.
What's your approach to acting?
I get the script, read it, and I do it. That's honestly, I don't have any secret formula. I'll work at something and work at it now. Whether that's a process that has a name, I don't know. But I'll do it about 15 different ways until I go, that's it. And then I just lock it in. It always has to come from an honest place. You can always tell when I don't have that honest place. It's when I have trouble with the line. If I have trouble with the line, that means I'm not believing a damn thing I'm saying. And you always have to watch out for that. You really have to believe in what you're saying. And if you don't understand the line or you don't understand why your character is saying that, go to the director or go to the writer and deal with it. But never, ever do something on camera that's going to be there forever.
What attracts you to a role?
There's a lot of things that do. Always had a person say to me, if you're in a show, and this is such a superficial way of looking at it too. If you're in a show and you look on the locations and it says your character's name's living room, now you know you're important, right? And I thought, really? Never looked at it like that. For me, does he have a middle? Does he have a beginning? I mean, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if he does, there's hope. Then he's a character. Now he's full, and you can do something with him. But if he just pops up just to get dialogue out of the way, then you better pay me a lot of money. I'll do the other one for free, but if I have to do crap, you better pay me a lot of money.
How has the TV business changed since when you first started? Well,
it's changed a lot, but the more things change, the more they stay the same. That really is. Just the different process of how TV is made now is more rushed. It seems to me it's more rushed. And And I know that this was the case. You know, when I thought, man, they're catering to these non-talented people that are doing these things, you know. And I thought, wait a minute, shut up, Randy. This is what they were saying about you when you were doing emergency. So quit being a fogey man. You know, just shut up. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. The only thing that I want to point out is that some of the young kids today will one day be sitting in this chair, and they'll go, well, I remember when I was a real jerk. Because when I was doing the show and people would jump me, right? Man, I wanted nothing to do with these people, and I was a jerk to them. I was like, you know, stay away from me, get away, blah, 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 blah. Now it's so much easier just to turn and smile and go, thank you. But I hid the hat and the glasses and pulling down, and, you know, it's like, dude, man, that's a lot of energy. And when it's just so much, you take the hat, you take it, hi, oh, thanks, appreciate it. Sorry, not right now. It's so much easier. God, it was just, it was like this huge anvil was let off my shoulders one day when I said, that's it, no more hat, that's it, no more glasses. And I'm going to face the next person. And I found out how liberating it was. All I want is just to say, thank you.
So what's your proudest achievement?
Geez, I don't know. I don't know whether I have proud achievements. Most of my achievements are by accident. I don't know. I don't know whether I have anything that I'm all that particularly proud about.
What's your biggest regret?
Not paying attention in those middle years of what I was doing. I knew I wanted out. Why didn't I just go ahead and do it? I wanted out. But I didn't really want out. I wanted a breather. I wanted a break. And I just felt that if I stepped out totally, I'd never be able to get back in. So there was about 10 years there where I'm not proud of the shows that I did and the stuff that I did. Yeah, I think I regret not just standing up and, you know, I knew bills had to be paid, and I went that way, and I never did that before. Everything has really kind of come easy, you know, but there's a price you pay for that.
What advice would you give to an aspiring actor?
Take Fountain. I love that. I love that. Betty Davis said that. Take Fountain. It's easier to get cross town that way. What advice? If you want to be an actor, then act all the time, anywhere, everywhere, for free, for money, for whatever. But if you really want to be an actor, try not to play the game, because the game, you're going to be forced to play it anyway. Just don't get embroiled in it. But if you really want to be an actor, go where actors go, on stage, go to New York, go to actors' workshops, do student films, act. And you'll wind up doing it. Just remember, you always have to give it up before you get paid. You always have to give it away before you can get paid. So if it's free, don't complain. Somebody's going to see you. So just act. Get as much schooling as possible. And then you'll get in front of the camera and realize you really don't know what you're doing. And it's a never-ending job. You never really get it down. It's not like architecture. It has no, you get to this level, and to this level, and this level, and this level. Now you're an architect. It's not what happens with acting. There are, It's like climbing a rock wall. You got to find your footholds where you find them. Being an architect, there's a ladder. It's very clear. Be a doctor, there's a ladder. Being an actor is like free climbing on a rock wall. You got to find your way.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Here again, I don't look forward. I don't know why I do that. My wife always says the same thing. What's your plan? What's your big plan? I got to have one. I got to have a plan. In 10 years, I don't know. You know, I'd like to slow down, but I don't think I can ever really retire. I don't know how people just retire. Okay, that's it. It's like, it's just too much of me. It's like putting half your body on Novocaine. It's like, okay, what does this do over here? I couldn't do it. I couldn't, in 10 years, you know, if I don't get hit by a bus, you know, maybe I'll be on stage or in front of a camera playing somebody's grandpa. Nobody wants to see two old men running around going, I've eaten if I'm you. Everybody says, do a remake. Are you crazy? That's embarrassing.
What do you think your legacy in the entertainment industry is?
I have no idea. And in fact, I am just very curious why I'm here. I honestly am like flabbergasted. I said, are you sure? And Kristen says, no, look right here. Why? Do they think I got cancer? I'm going to die? Because I honestly, what legacy do I have? I do a television series. That's it. You know, I had a hell of a lot of fun, so I don't know what my legacy is. I really don't. And I'm always shocked at who says, wow, Randolph Mantooth. And I'm just about to say, congratulations on your Oscar. You know, I hope he doesn't, you know, spit on me. And he goes, wow, Randolph Mantooth just said congratulations. Seriously? And I'm being very genuine. I don't get it. Is it the last name? Mantooth? Well, because if somebody on Facebook says, Randolph Mantooth has a kick-ass name. It's like, as a kid, I had to fight for that name. I got teased just relentlessly for my name. So I you know, baby tooth, tiger tooth, woman tooth, you know, it's like every tooth in the world. And so when people say, what's your name? I grit my teeth and I go, Randolph Mantooth. And you're not going to take it away from me. And now all of a sudden, Farrell puts it in Wes Mantooth. And I went, I never thought I'd see the day where Mantooth was a cool name.
Cool name for a cool guy.
Thank you.
Well, those are all our questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
My pleasure. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but
We're going to share it with the world.
all right.